Okay, continue where we left off. So we're still in this fight of the Duke of Vault and Skullmaster versus Snake Carnage and Koji the Deathless. And yeah, again, this is the most fan favorite fight ever by everyone. I mean, me, I liked it. Fattest Hattis liked it. Zavio Gamba likes it. Mirror Fullerton likes it. Everyone likes it. I gotta say, it is the most entertaining and most epic fight ever to witness. And I know some people are gonna be reminding me about, Skullmaster was in Worst Heroes vs. Villains War Ever, so wouldn't he be on the worst villains? Here's the thing, I gotta remind you, Skullmaster didn't first appear in Worst Heroes vs. Villains War Ever. He first appeared in the non-Disney Villains Tournament. And the reason I suggested Darth Rolex is because ever since I found him in non-Disney Villains Tournament, I've always kind of assumed that Mighty Max being on non-Disney, because before I had YouTube and before I had like a Wikipedia account, I just didn't get into the worst series that much. I thought it was just too weird for me. There's a lot of characters I have no idea who they are, no idea where they're from, no idea what they represent, or where they come from, or any of that stuff. And it did kind of drove me crazy, so I had to end up doing a commentary on the series. And when I first started watching the series, I will admit it did got me entertained, and I did enjoy it. And I was vaguely surprised seeing Mighty Max in there. And well, technically, when I first get to watch the series, it made me realize that Worst is basically like its own universe. Like, if you think about it, Malmoth is like the big bad of the series, and the Head Angel could be like the Zeus of that universe, and basically the Elder Gods are like the creators of the Worst universe kind of thing. And I understand it's mostly just for obscure stuff, and some of them are less obscure, like Kill la Kill and Seven Deadly Sins, which actually, in my opinion, they actually do fit in that universe. And when I asked him this, like, when you wrote in the blog of wars you would like to see, like obscure Villains War and obscure Heroes versus Villains War, yeah, he did put it in the wars he would like to see. And then I said, I've always assumed that's what the Worst universe is, a place of obscure stuff, with some medias that don't fit in non-Disney. And the blog of Nordic counterparts. And notice that some of them did appear in Worst series, like the animated Valhalla movie, Moomin Drill, I think Peter No Tail. Yeah, and I did notice they were, now Nordic would be its own thing, but at the same time they're on the Worst universe. And the idea you thought of Nordic versus Soyuzmultfilm, that I will admit got me a bit confused. Like, did you just thought of Nordic production as its own thing because of Soyuzmultfilm? I might need help with explaining. Plus, the idea of Disney versus Netflix villains, I will admit, sounds interesting. And Mirror Floor 10 replied this, like, the obscure Heroes versus Villains War thing was for stuff that was obscure, even I didn't know about. Looking back, I would have called Worst Heroes and Villains War Ever that if it wasn't for the fact that characters like Garfield, Mario, Sonic, Gingy, etc. are not obscure. I regret calling the series that because it painted a whole different image of the series to the public. But I don't know what else to call it. I get you, hard name to find. And then he replied about the Nordic part. Nordic is just the counterpart of Soyuzmultfilm. I wanted to do since I think stuff from Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark need more attention. Think of the fact how I used Nordic series in Worst Heroes and Villains War Ever and Worst Villains War Ever are, being similar to how Worst Heroes versus Villains War Ever Sandbox uses Soyuzmultfilm characters. Yeah, I guess he thought of Nordic being its own thing before Soyuzmultfilm becomes officially its own thing. So, yeah, I guess we all just could have seen that coming. Hey, we're not future predictors. So, I can understand why he wants Nordic to be its... all the medias of Nordic being its own thing. I can understand that. Well, Soyuzmultfilm is an actual company. Just thought I'd point that out. Oh yeah, and I also replied, I see, but would the Super Mario cartoon, The Adventures of Sonic, work for Obscure or no? Well, that was a weird question I asked, wasn't it? Let's see. Oh yeah, but I will admit, when I got into non-Disney villain torment after high school, I'd rather not talk about it. Yeah, I'd rather not, still not talk about it. But I am wondering how Julia Bamonte is doing these days. Nah, she'd probably be still afraid of me after what happened. I don't blame her. And it introduced me to Mighty Max when Keldor, Skeletor, fought against Skullmaster. And then Skullmaster teamed up with Sauron, Messina, and Hexus. But when I finally decided to watch Worst Heroes vs. Villains Wherever, I thought this might be another multiverse I've looked for. That's not either Disney multiverse, non-Disney multiverse, DC and Marvel multiverse. And when knowing Mighty Max and Wallace and Gromit are in it, it did got me, off guard, since I thought Mighty Max and Wallace and Gromit being non-Disney. But I just have to enjoy it and not let the head confusion get in the way. Plus, the other thing that surprised me was the Little Witch Academia being used. Then came 87 TMNT, but he explained that they'll become the Super Mutants versions. Plus, I was surprised seeing Winterbolt from the Rankin Bass production, and his reply is this one: that is an interesting story. And you already get that part. Wallace and Gromit was voted by the fans. So he said, Mighty Max, what I discovered by accident, and thought it would look fitting, so I used it in Worst Villains Tournament Ever, and later Worst Heroes vs. Villains Wherever. And Little Witch Academia was planned before they were planned for non-Disney heroes versus villains. Same for 87 TMNT. So I guess he just discovered Mighty Max. Yeah, sorry for the whole thing. I just thought I'd talk about the one with the, Skullmaster thing, and knowing about Mighty Max being in both non-Disney and Worst. Man, I spin me around right now. Now I'm a raven. A giant raven. I crushed this sword. It's like I'm a firing my laser. Just fly around and... Man, Skullmaster is really strong enough to take down a dragon. Three-headed dragons, particularly. It's like, hey, that's my boy toy. Well, I'll deal with you first. Sorry, just a little joke. I'm wondering how they're being used as jetpacks. Like one spit of fire and boom, he's dead. Kind of surprised me that Skullmaster is dead. Now, one last thing to give. Boing! Now, Kojay the Deathless and Snake Carnage wins. Yep, victory! And now for the next fight is Elmer Fudd versus the Fox, made by Fattest Caddis. So Elmer Fudd is hunting down some foxes just so he can sell it to the zoo to get some price. Hold on. Shh. Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting foxes. I love doing Elmer Fudd impressions. It's like, now I got you, you rascally fox. Yeah, I don't think I ever got to watch the show or the cartoon the fox is from. Oh, he's got a pack of dogs. Now she's surrounded. Oh, wait till I get my hands on that fox. Well, people do say foxes are the sneakiest animals. But no way out of this. Elmer Fudd wins. Now he's gonna get his money. I think I'm gonna stop right here. So see you guys in the next part of this commentary.